Story 1. The Silent Performer. I'll never forget the summer when my mom told me about the carnival just outside of town. I was 13, and in a small, boring town like ours, a carnival was a big deal. It was the kind of place you'd expect cheap rides, fried food, and cheesy games. But this one, it felt different. I got there just before sunset, the bright lights flickering against the darkening sky. The music was oddly muffled, like it was struggling to break through the air. I wandered around for a bit, played a game or two, and grabbed some popcorn. Then I saw it, a big red and white tent at the edge of the carnival grounds. It wasn't on the map they handed out, and there wasn't a sign, just a faint sound of laughter coming from inside. Curiosity got the better of me, so I stepped closer and peeked in. The inside was dim, lit by a few overhead bulbs that cast long shadows. There was a tiny stage with one performer, a clown. He was dressed in baggy black and white clothes, his face painted stark white with exaggerated red lips and hollow dark eyes. He didn't say a word. He just moved. His gestures were slow and deliberate, like he was miming something no one else could understand. The few people in the audience barely paid attention. But me, I couldn't stop watching. It was like he was performing for me. Every time I thought about leaving, he would turn toward me, his unblinking eyes locking onto mine, his movements becoming sharper, more deliberate. It was unsettling, so I finally backed out of the tent and walked away. The sun had set by then, and the carnival was winding down. I decided to take the shortcut home through the woods. It was a path I knew well, but something about it felt wrong that night. The trees seemed taller, the air colder. I chalked it up to the weird vibes from the clown and kept walking. Then I heard it, the faint crunch of leaves behind me. I stopped and turned, shining my phone's flashlight into the dark. Nothing, just trees and shadows. But when I started walking again, I heard it again. This time, closer. "Hello," I called out, my voice trembling. No response. I kept moving, my pace quickening with every step. My heart was pounding now, and the sound of footsteps was no longer faint. It was right behind me. I turned again, and that's when I saw him, the clown. He was standing just a few feet away, his painted smile stark against his pale face. But he wasn't moving. He just stood there, tilting his head, as if waiting for me to say something. "What do you want?" I stammered, backing away. He didn't answer. He didn't move. And then, without warning, he reached into his pocket and pulled out nothing, just an empty hand. But the gesture, it was deliberate, like he was daring me to react. I bolted. I didn't care where I was running, as long as it was away from him. The sound of heavy footsteps followed me, faster and closer with every second. I didn't dare look back. Finally, the woods broke open into the street near my house. I sprinted onto the pavement, panting and gasping for air. When I turned around, the clown was gone. But as I reached my front door, my blood ran cold. There on the porch step was a single red balloon tied to the railing. I never saw that clown again, but every time I pass the woods, I can't help but feel like he's still there, waiting, watching, and I'll never step foot in another circus tent again. Story 2. The Clown in the Closet. It started as a joke. My best friend Megan and I always loved making fun of those ridiculous clown horror stories. Creepy clowns in the woods, hiding under beds, stalking people. None of it ever seemed real to us. That night, during a sleepover at my house, we made it our mission to find the scariest clown story online and laugh until we cried. But then we found the costume. It was in my attic, tucked away in a dusty old trunk. We'd gone up there looking for extra blankets and ended up rummaging through boxes of my grandma's old stuff. Megan was the one who found it, a faded clown costume complete with oversized shoes and a painted mask. "Ellie, look at this thing," she laughed, holding it up. The mask was cracked and yellowed with age, its smile frozen in a way that felt wrong. It wasn't like the goofy clowns we joked about. This one looked mean, almost angry. "Gross," I said, brushing off the unease creeping up my spine. "Put it back." But Megan didn't. She draped it over a chair in my room, laughing as she posed it to look like it was sitting there watching us. We kept laughing too, though my stomach was already twisting with something I couldn't quite explain. It was just a costume, nothing to be afraid of. Right? The jokes stopped after dinner. We were back in my room, scrolling through our phones, when Megan pointed at the chair. "Ellie, did you move that?" I looked up. The clown costume wasn't sitting like it had been before. It was slouched forward, its mask tilted slightly to the side, staring right at my bed. "No," I said, laughing nervously. "You probably bumped it when you walked by." "I didn't touch it," Megan whispered. We both stared at it for a moment, neither of us wanting to admit how uneasy we felt. Finally, Megan stood up and tossed the costume into my closet. There, problem solved. But it wasn't. That night, after we turned out the lights and settled into our sleeping bags, I couldn't stop thinking about the costume. The way its painted smile seemed too wide. The way its empty eyes had seemed to follow us. It must have been hours before I finally drifted off. And then I woke to the sound of laughter. It was soft, muffled, like it was coming from behind a closed door. At first I thought it was Megan. I nudged her, whispering, "Stop messing around." But Megan was dead asleep, her breathing slow and steady. Then I heard it again. The laughter was coming from the closet. My heart froze. I sat up slowly, staring at the door. It was closed, but I could see the faintest sliver of light shining through the crack at the bottom. "Megan," I whispered, shaking her awake. "Do you hear that?" She groaned and sat up, rubbing her eyes. Then she heard it too, the soft, eerie giggle that sent shivers down my spine. "What the hell is that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. We sat there for what felt like an eternity, too scared to move. Finally, Megan grabbed the flashlight from her phone and pointed it at the closet door. "Let's just check," she said, though her voice was shaking. I didn't want to. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run, but I couldn't leave Megan. Together, we crept toward the door. The laughter stopped the second Megan reached for the handle. She flung the door open, and there it was, the costume, crumpled in a heap on the floor. The mask stared up at us, its painted grin wider than I remembered. "That's it," Megan said, her voice breaking. "I'm not staying in here with that thing." She grabbed the costume and stuffed it into a box, taping it shut before shoving it back into the attic. We didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning I went to check the attic just to make sure the box was still there. But when I opened the door, the box was ripped open and the costume was gone. I never found it. And to this day, I can't explain the laughter. But sometimes late at night, I think I hear it again. Soft, muffled, and coming from somewhere I can't see. Story 3. The Lone Clown. Working the night shift in my small town was something I'd gotten used to. The quiet streets, the distant hum of crickets, the occasional stray cat darting across the road, it all became part of my routine. I liked the peace. Most nights, the only company I had was the steady rhythm of my own footsteps as I walked the mile home from the diner where I worked. But that night was different. It started as I passed the park near my house. The swings usually creak softly in the breeze, but tonight, one of them was occupied. A figure sat there motionless, the dim glow of a nearby street lamp casting long shadows across the ground. It was a clown. At first I thought I was imagining it, but as I got closer, I saw it clearly. A clown in a dirty, oversized costume, its face obscured by a mask with exaggerated red lips and hollow dark eyes. I told myself it was probably a prank, maybe some teenager trying to freak people out. Still, it was unnerving. The clown didn't move, didn't react as I passed. It just sat there, staring straight ahead. I kept walking, quickening my pace, the park fading into the distance behind me. But a few blocks later, I had the strangest feeling, like I wasn't alone. I glanced over my shoulder and there it was, the clown. It was standing now, just at the edge of the park, its head tilted slightly to one side. It hadn't been there a moment ago. I tried to shake it off. Maybe I was just tired, imagining things. But as I turned another corner, I couldn't help but glance back again. It was closer. The clown wasn't running or even walking quickly. It just moved, somehow always keeping pace with me, no matter how far I went. My heart started pounding. I didn't want to panic, didn't want to believe that this was anything more than a stupid prank. But the clown wasn't laughing, wasn't calling out. It just followed, its silence more unnerving than any taunt or threat could have been. By the time I reached my street, I was practically jogging. My house was in sight, the porch light glowing like a beacon. I bolted up the steps, fumbling with my keys, glancing back one last time. The clown was standing at the edge of my driveway now, completely still, its painted eyes locked on me. I threw the door open and slammed it shut, my hands shaking as I locked the deadbolt. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at the door, waiting to hear footsteps, a knock, anything. But it was silent. Finally, I mustered the courage to peek through the curtain. The clown was still there, standing in the exact same spot. And then it did something I'll never forget. It raised its hand slowly and pointed at me. I froze, unable to breathe, my mind racing. What did it want? Why was it here? But then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the clown turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't leave the house for days. And even now, months later, every time I pass that park, I can't help but look at the swings, half expecting to see that figure again. Whatever it was, whoever it wasn't just a prank. It was deliberate. It was calculated. And the scariest part? I don't think it was the first time the clown had been there.